Imagine you're standing in front of a mirror. The face staring back at you seems familiar, but is it truly you? If every cell in your body is replaced over time, if your thoughts and emotions shift like passing clouds, then what exactly is the self? Is it something real, or merely an illusion? This is where the Ship of Theseus Paradox meets Buddhist psychology. If a ship gradually replaces all its parts, does it remain the same? And more importantly, if you too are constantly changing, is there a real you at all? Let's explore the Buddhist perspective on identity, impermanence, and the nature of the self. In Buddhism, one of the core teachings is Anicca, impermanence, the idea that everything is in a constant state of change. Nothing remains the same, not even for a moment. This principle directly applies to the Ship of Theseus Paradox. If the ship is always changing, then there never was a fixed Ship of Theseus to begin with, only an evolving structure that we label for convenience. Similarly, if every part of you, your body, thoughts, emotions, is in flux, then what exactly is the real you? Buddhism challenges the assumption that identity is something solid or unchanging. Instead, it suggests that clinging to the idea of a fixed self leads to confusion and suffering. To understand this better, consider a childhood memory. Think about how different you were 5 years ago, the way you thought, your interests, your beliefs. How much of that remains the same today? The truth is, we are always evolving, even in ways we don't consciously notice. The you of today is just as impermanent as the Ship of Theseus. Another key Buddhist concept is Anatta, or no self. This teaching states that there is no permanent, unchanging self within us. Instead, what we call me is just a collection of constantly shifting components, like 1. Form, rupa. Your body, which is continuously aging and replacing cells. 2. Feelings, vedana. Your emotions, which change from moment to moment. 3. Perceptions, sana. The way you interpret the world, shaped by past experiences. 4. Mental formations, sankhara. Your habits, thoughts, and biases, all subject to change. 5. Consciousness, vijnana. Your awareness, which fluctuates throughout the day. This framework, known as the Five Aggregates, helps explain why the self is just an illusion, just like the Ship of Theseus, which only appears to be the same over time because we mentally construct continuity where none actually exists. A great way to understand this is through the candle analogy. Imagine lighting a candle. As it burns, the wax melts, the flame flickers, and the shape slowly changes. But we still call it the same candle. In reality, it's constantly changing, just like you. So if there is no fixed self, what are we holding on to? A famous Buddhist analogy compares life to a river. The water is constantly moving, never the same from one moment to the next. Yet, we still call it a river, even though it has no fixed identity. In the same way, you exist as a flowing process, not as a fixed entity. This perspective resolves the Ship of Theseus paradox by suggesting that both the ship and the self were never fixed to begin with, only ever-changing streams of existence. We can also apply this to personal growth. Have you ever looked back at an old journal entry or social media post and cringed? That's because you've changed. Just like a river keeps flowing, your identity is always shifting. Realizing the impermanence of self is liberating. If there is no fixed me, then there is no need to cling to an identity that causes suffering. Whether it's past mistakes, self-imposed labels, or fears of change, they are all temporary. You are free to evolve. Just like the Ship of Theseus is neither its old nor new parts, you are not bound by past versions of yourself. Growth is natural. You can cultivate inner peace. When we stop grasping for a permanent self, we free ourselves from anxiety and expectations, living more fully in the present moment. Consider how much suffering comes from attachment. If we believe we must always be a certain way, successful, intelligent, attractive, then we suffer when life naturally changes. But if we embrace impermanence, we open ourselves to endless possibilities of growth and transformation. If there is no fixed self, then who are you? Are you your thoughts, your body, or something else entirely? Here's a challenge. Spend a moment observing your thoughts and emotions. Do they remain the same, or do they change like waves in the ocean? If they are always changing, then who is the you experiencing them? Think about it. If you could let go of attachment to a fixed identity, how would your life change? Would you be more at peace? Would you take more risks? Would you forgive yourself more easily? What do you think? Does the Buddhist concept of no self make sense to you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. In the next video, we'll dive into the ethics of the Ship of Theseus Paradox, where philosophy meets morality. Click here, and let's unravel the truth together.